The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, I'm Peter Towers. Welcome to this special webinar for subscribers to the BIZTOOLS ESS BASIP crowdsourced funding product package. Thank you for your support. And I hope that this webinar will give you a good introduction to the material that's now at your disposal to work with your clients. So to get started, I suggest that you go to the procedure control form, and the first item there is to watch the video so that you set the scene. It also suggests that you read the special paper we've produced, Crowdsourced Funding Equity Raising Overview, because this takes you in a general way through all the product. And we've produced a separate seminar, or you could use it as a webinar if you wish, which we'd like you to brand with your firm name on so that you could utilize that format for the presentation of a seminar or webinar to your own clients. What I've done is recorded a presentation for you, and perhaps you might like to go down that similar path in the presentation to your own clients. What we've done is called this journey the roadmap, the Crowdsourced Funding Equity Raising Package Roadmap. You will appreciate this is brand new legislation. We had no precedents to use in developing our product, and we hope that you will enjoy this journey on this roadmap. Step one, we're going to look at marketing, because marketing is very important for you to be able to communicate with your clients and your prospects in your area to advise them that your firm's interested in providing this sort of product. We then go in the first phase with a potential company. We envisage that they've attended a marketing promotion, and you then try to determine whether the company is really interested. Step three is looking at the level of disclosure. There is a significant amount of disclosure required if a company or the directors or an officer or a manager has had any sort of problems with Australian Security Investment Corporation in the past. Step four is looking at the investor categories, and there's a few of those, and we will have more detailed comment on that in a little while. Then the very important discussion on the role of the intermediary. We believe it's very important that your clients who are interested in crowdsourced funding really do understand the role of the intermediary. Then it's going to be necessary to make contact with 2 or 3 intermediaries and have a conversation with them, and then get a proposal from them. So we have some material on that. Step 7 is the very important preparing the CSF offer document. This is the de facto prospectus that will need to be prepared and then submitted to the intermediary. And that's what I've just talked about. Step 8 is actually taking or sending that offer document to the intermediary for review. And if the intermediary is happy with the material that's been disclosed, the intermediary will then place the offer document for your client onto their platform, which is their website, so that it is available for members of the public, the so-called crowd, to be able to go to review what the company's got on offer, ask questions if they wish, and make subscriptions, hopefully. If there's any defects found in the offer document, there are set procedures under the legislation, and we've summarised them in step 10. And step 11, hopefully, is the end of a very happy story, the closing of the CSF offer and the company receiving its cash, and obviously then having to issue shares to the company. So the first step is the marketing. Very important. Please don't assume that your clients know that you're interested in crowdsourced funding, and they might not really understand too much about it in any case. So we've produced an article which you could place on your website to promote to your clients and your prospects that you're interested in this activity. And we've also produced an article, Improving Your Bottom Line, which we'd suggest that you could send to your clients and prospects. We then move into Section C of the procedure control form. There is a work program quotation form that's been prepared in the format that we think you will need to work through. And there's also a proposal letter which you can utilize, you can edit it, or you can prepare your own. But it's very important in this type of work that you submit a written proposal to your client. We then have some background notes in Section D. These have been included so that you can do some background reading. They're the notes that we have prepared to get started on this process. We have produced an article which you could send to your local media. You would badge it with your name. You would personalize this by including your names, firm name, contact person's name, and advising when a presentation is going to be held. We have some material to help you commence a social media campaign. And we have the seminar or webinar for you to present to your clients that we're going to give you a template on. Step 2 is the company interested. You will have a discussion with company directors that have shown some interest. Hopefully they've attended your seminar or your webinar. Pardon me. And you can then have a meeting with the company directors. We have a corporate information form, which is very important. This is the first phase of really getting down to the nitty-gritty that you can use to record that information. That you will need. There's also an eligibility questionnaire which you will need to work through. And what the key question is the company potentially eligible? And also, is the company interested in proceeding? The next step is the level of disclosure. As I indicated in the opening comments, there is significant disclosure required if a officer, company director or manager or the company itself has been involved in any problems with ASIC. So one of the key questions out of all that's going to be, does the company wish to proceed? And there's material there to assist, and we're just going to again show you one of these. This is the CSF offer document overview, which is presented to you to let you understand the key things that have got to be covered in the offer document so that you can make sure that you've been able to assemble all of this information. Because it's very important when you're talking to the intermediaries that they understand that a significant amount of preparation work has been done, that this wasn't an idea thought up over a cup of coffee yesterday. Step 4 is looking at investor categories. There is the wholesale sophisticated investor that you're very familiar with from Section 708 of the Corporations Act, and we have the retail clients, the investors. There's specific protection for retail investors. So there's a retail clients overview, and there's a checklist for retail investors. So we might have a look at that. And what you have to work through is to determine whether a client is a retail investor. The law basically says that everyone who is not a wholesale, sophisticated or professional investor is a retail investor. We then go to the role of the intermediary. They've got a very important role to play, and you will need to be able to discuss with your clients the intermediary's role, their responsibilities and their powers. There's a special form to summarise what an intermediary has to do. They are the gatekeeper. None of the offer documents are submitted to ASIC before they are listed on the platform. They are sent to the selected intermediary, and that intermediary will decide whether your client has met the requirements of the legislation for the offer document to be placed on the platform. So it's very important that your clients have a clear understanding of the role of the intermediary. Intermediaries must hold Australian financial services licenses with a special endorsement for crowdsourced funding. It's going to be very important to have contact with intermediaries, and we see that's part of your role, is to arrange a discussion between the company directors and the intermediaries. I imagine that by July, August, there will be information available on the internet as to who the intermediaries are, and you will then be able to make contact with them. It's very important that there's a working relationship between the company, the directors, and the intermediary. So did the intermediary appear to be interested in the company's pitch? What's the intermediary's specific requirements? I don't really know at this stage. This is all brand new. And then your client is going to have to decide which intermediary to appoint. They can only have one intermediary. And then an agreement will need to be finalised because the legislation does not specify the charges that an intermediary can make. It's up to the client and the intermediary to negotiate an agreement that should then be documented. And the only comment the legislation makes is that full details of the payment to the intermediary needs to be included in the offer document and specified on the platform. Then we've got some forms to assist you in having some discussion with the intermediary to make this available to your clients so they understand how everything operates. Preparing the CSF offer document. First of all, the company needs to be an unlisted public company. If you're currently operating as a proprietary limited company, the company can be converted to an unlisted public company, or you could form a new unlisted public company. The government has indicated that it is researching the practicalities of allowing proprietary limited companies to participate in crowdsourced funding, but I don't expect that legislation to be finalised for some time. And in the meanwhile, this is the legislation and it starts in September. We have the form which takes you through in great detail what needs to be included in the CSF offer document so that you can make sure you have all of this information. There's also a corporate due diligence checklist that we have included because we think a lot of the information that's forthcoming from the due diligence checklist will be required by the intermediary to satisfy themselves that this company is a well-run company to be able to try to raise capital under this process. And this is then going to highlight whether some additional work needs to be done, such as market research, a marketing plan, a business plan, budgets and cash flow forecasts, information memorandum. Which will then lead through to the CSF offer document. Company valuation, the share price calculation. So how much of this extra work has to be done will depend on what the company already has. But at the very least, I believe companies are going to need business plans, budgets, cash flow forecasts. Companies going to need to be valued. There needs to be a determination as to how the share price has been calculated. And many of them will require work such as market research, marketing plans. That would probably be undertaken by other consultants, and then you would have to coordinate to receive those reports. And an intellectual property summary looking at patents, trademarks, copyrighted material, procedures for research and development is also a crucial area that the intermediary will probably require information on. The offer document then needs to be submitted to the intermediary, and the company directors will have to be able to answer any questions that have been asked and to make adjustments required by the intermediary. Your client is then ready to go live on the intermediary's platform. This is a process that the intermediary handles themselves. The offer document is placed on the intermediary's platform. Your client needs to realize that anyone in the public can then go to that platform and read that CSF offer document. The intermediary also needs to establish a communication facility, and that is there so that a member of the public is able to ask questions which have to be answered by directors, officers or managers of the company, and in some cases by the intermediary, him or herself. The CSF offer document is also to be reviewed. It could be defective, and if it is, it needs to be fixed. And finally, the CSF offer will close. The intermediary would determine when the closing occurs. It's the end of 3 months or the lesser period that has been utilised in the documentation. The share certificates then need to be sent, and the intermediary will then send the net amount that has been raised from the share issue to the company's bank account. If you have any comments or questions or criticisms on this product, we would love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. and we hope that you will be able to gainfully use this product to assist your clients. Thank you for your support.